What are the guidelines for Google Webmasters? Top 4 points to keep in mind with general guidelines. While many website owners want to improve their search results, many likewise don't know what to do to improve their ranking. Isn't it? Various books on SEO have been published, and there is a lot of information on SEO on the web. However, some of the information is incorrect, and often the algorithm changes and becomes outdated. While various information about SEO is on the market, the Google Webmaster Guidelines is the first thing I would like people who are starting SEO or who are going to reorganize the system to perform SEO. This time, I would like to introduce what the Google Webmaster Guidelines are, and the points that I want to keep in mind among the contents shown in the guidelines. What are the guidelines for Webmasters? Webmaster Guidelines are SEO textbooks officially provided by Google on the web for webmasters who run websites. It describes the basic policy for creating a website, and websites that do not follow this policy will not be able to get a proper evaluation from search engines. This is what Google says: take it for granted to evaluate your website correctly. The Google Help page explains the guidelines as follows. Here are some general recommendations for getting your site to appear in Google search, as well as quality guidelines to prevent your page or site from being excluded from search results. Guidelines consisting of 2 main categories. Google's guidelines for webmasters are broadly divided into 2 guidelines: general guidelines and quality guidelines. Let's explain what kind of guidelines each is. General guidelines. General guidelines describe the steps Google needs to crawl and discover website pages, understand them correctly, index them properly, and display them in search results, including: help Google detect the page, help Google understand the page, helping visitors to use the page. Most of the content is basic, not technical, but it is a very effective guideline for understanding what a site is easy for Google and users to understand. Quality guidelines. The quality guidelines explain what Google considers inappropriate, such as fraudulent rankings that Google prohibits, the so-called black hat, and tricks to deceive users. The Google Help page explains, describes improper techniques that can exclude a page or site from search results. Manual action may be taken using these techniques. Not only when you intentionally cheat, but even if you do not intend, the measures you are actually taking are seen as camouflage, or the creation of the website is seen as fraudulent in the first place. It may be. If the website is determined to be improperly used, the page may not be displayed in the search results. In some cases, you risk excluding your entire website from search results. Quality guidelines are very important in understanding what Google considers inappropriate. Now, let's focus on the important ones from the general guidelines and quality guidelines. Points to keep in mind with general guidelines. First of all, I will introduce the points to keep in mind from the items described in the general guidelines. 1. Read Search Engine Optimization, SEO, Starter Guide. The Search Engine Optimization, SEO, Starter Guide is one of the general guidelines that introduces the basic knowledge of SEO recommended by Google. It's easy for beginners to understand what search engines need to crawl, index, and understand the page, with item-by-item instructions on what to recommend and what to avoid. Regardless of SEO, I definitely want you to read it as a guide for creating a site that is easy for users to understand. Here are some of the items listed. Allow Google to find your content. It explains that it is important to create a sitemap so that Google can properly recognize what kind of pages, images, and videos are on the website. Large sites with a lot of content are especially important. Allow Google and users to understand your content. In addition to allowing Google crawlers to load the page in the same way, it states that it is important to include descriptive content for the page in tags such as title and description. 2. Optimize your content. It describes the methods needed to make the content useful to the user. It states that it is important to have a site that is trusted by users and has clear expertise and authority. Make your site mobile-friendly. Since mobile is the mainstream of the current web, we introduce the necessity of creating mobile pages as well as PC pages. How to make them mobile, tags necessary for recognizing mobile pages, and so on. 3. Protect your site with HTTPS. It is very important for users to use the site safely by always introducing SSL to protect the site. The guidelines state that users should be treated so that they can see the HTTPS page instead of HTTP. Keep a simple URL structure. Google recommends that your site's URL structure should be as simple as possible. The guidelines state that IDs and numbers should be used in URLs as little as possible, and should be names that users can imagine what the page looks like by looking at the URL. 4. Duplicate content. The presence of exactly the same or almost similar content on other sites or within the same site can confuse what Google should show in search results and affect the site's reputation. This is a phenomenon that can be avoided. The guidelines also describe how to deal with duplicates, such as normalization and blocking pages with noindex. Points to keep in mind in quality guidelines. Next, I would like to introduce some points to keep in mind from the items listed in the quality guidelines. 1. Link program. Google explains that it is a violation to intentionally purchase a link to improve your website's reputation. Avoid setting links for the purpose of manipulating the ranking. 2. Hidden text and hidden links. Putting text on the source code invisible to the user, such as using white text on a white background, or putting the text behind an image, is considered by Google to be disguised as content, and is rated. It may be lowered. Be careful when creating pages for text that is invisible to the user. 3. Content duplicated without permission. A page that is duplicated without permission and provides only the same content as a separate site has no added value to the user, and may infringe copyright in some cases. With the exception of quoting or clarifying the source of the copy, avoid copying it. 4. Keyword abuse. Google recommends that you avoid forcing a particular keyword on your page because you want to rank it higher. Repeating the same word or phrase in an unnatural way can be detrimental to the user's convenience and, conversely, can reduce the reputation of the website. If you violate the above guidelines, Google will impose a so-called penalty. In the worst case, the entire website may not appear in the search results, so be careful. Other SEO guides provided by Google. In addition to the guidelines introduced above, Google provides information for its users. 5. Content-specific guidelines. Content-specific guidelines describe how to properly display images and videos, content such as AMP and AJAX, and mobile to search engines. Guidelines for AMP in Google Search. AJAX, site extension. Images and videos. Podcast. Mobile. Search Quality Evaluation Guidelines. The Search Quality Evaluation Guideline is a material for externally evaluating whether Google's search engine is able to display appropriate search results. Originally, it was given to an external evaluator, but now it is open to the public, and it is a material that allows you to know the items that Google considers important in search engines. 6. Official blog for Webmasters. The official blog for Webmasters is the blog that Google officially publishes information about. This blog may also inform you of changes to the guidelines for Webmasters, so you can see the latest trends of Google, so it is a blog that we would like Webmasters to check regularly. In conclusion, this time, we introduced Google's guidelines. The guidelines aren't about making your website friendly to Google, but about making it a useful and easy-to-understand website for your users. For those who are worried that the website is not displayed in the search results, or cannot be displayed at the top, it is one way to search for SEO information on the web, but the official guidelines introduced above are also available. It is recommended to check first. When you actually read it, it explains in very small detail, and even people who have been doing SEO for a while may actually find something that they did not know in unexpected places. We're an affiliate. We hope you love the products we recommend. Just so you know, we may collect a share of sales or other compensation from the links on this page. This does not affect you as a reader in any way. Thank you if you use our links, we really appreciate it. Do you like our content and would love to hear more from us? Kindly subscribe to our channel, Like and share with your friends, family. Stay tuned for more.